Most D&D help questions can be boiled down into two different categories. One, how does this rule work? And two, how do I solve this social dynamic at the table? The answer to the first one is either a link to a Jeremy Crawford tweet or someone just saying, just do what you want, it's Dungeons and Dragons. And the answer to the second one is always talk to the players. And while that is a correct answer, it's not a simple one. It's easy to say, just talk about it when you're referring to a group of abstract strangers. In a recent conversation with Dr. Megan Connell, I asked her how to connect with players that seem unresponsive at the table, especially when there are neurodiverse qualities at the table. For those who don't know, Dr. Connell is a board-certified psychologist who uses D&D in her therapy practice. She's the game master of Clinical Role, an actual play D&D stream featuring other therapists, counselors, and therapeutic dungeon masters. And she's a real-life healing domain cleric. At least, I'm pretty sure. Here's what she had to say.
Essentially, it's talking about it, right? Like, when we have a problem at the table, and if you go onto any of the D&D Reddits, you see this all the time where it's like, my player's doing this, and like the first question always is, have you talked to them about it?
Have you talked to them?
Right?
Yes.
And like so many times it's like, well, no, why would I do that? It's like, well, how on earth are you going to solve the problem without this? Like, this is going to be terrible because this is an audio podcast, but I'm going to grab a little prop here. And so this is a shameless self plug, but like one of the things I've gotten to do in my career is I've actually gotten to make a game prep tool, which is the Game Master's Dungeon Journal. And this is like, it's designed to use with therapy games, but any short campaign, it's for a 10 to 12 session campaign, can be in here. But like explicitly at the front, one of the things we have is, how do we deal with problems at the table? As one of the session 0 topics is to sit down and say, okay, we are humans coming together and working, and we're going to have problems. So how do we want to address these problems? Do you want me to just send you an email or a text and we talk over text? Do you want, because for some people talking face to face, that's really anxiety provoking and really difficult, right? Or is it, do you want me to sit down with you face to face and talk to you? How do we want to process when the whole group's escalating into something? And so like, it's trying to find those ways of slowing it down and talking about it. But like when someone's hesitant about things, it's important to ask, like, what's going on? Like, just, I know, my read of your body language is that you're not having fun, or you seem really reserved and it's like a hard time. Is it hard for you to jump in and role play? Like, help me understand what's going on here. Like, it sort of a pithy statement of like, assuming makes an ass of you and me. Yes. But like, there's really some truth behind that. Like, don't assume you know what's going on with a person. Ask. I suffer from the resting bee face sometimes, and so sometimes people think I'm angry when I'm like, I'm just tired, and I'm not consciously making myself smile to not to counteract that. And so we want to make sure that we're clearly understanding what's going on and how, what's happening with the person. And I think one of the big things for game masters, though, is if you can be open to hearing critical feedback. If you can be open to hearing, I really didn't like this in the game. This thing that happened in the game made me feel really uncomfortable. Right? And like, our go-to thing typically is defensive. It's like, I didn't mean to do that. It wasn't what I was trying to do. I was trying to do this thing. And, it's like, rather than sitting with their emotion and saying like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry you feel that way. I didn't even think about this stuff. And now let's address this. Let's talk about it. And one of the things I talk about a lot is the importance of session 0. And like, it is so important to do that stuff and to talk about the no-go topics and understand like where that is. And for you as a game master too, to prep and to talk to your players about what to expect in the game. If Gamehole Con does happen this fall, I'm going to be talking with another creator about horror games and what consent in horror games can look like and how we run those well. Because like there's this idea that like it has to all be jump scares and gotchas, but really it's okay to have a lot of open communications. Like, I've definitely played in sessions where I've been super duper creeped out and I've loved it.
Right.
But it hasn't crossed a boundary. Like, it's not hitting something where I'm like, I don't want to hear about that. Like, that's terrible. Please stop. So like, it's finding that balance.
Thank you as always for watching, and thank you Dr. Connell for your time and conversation. If you want to prep your game like she does, the Game Master's Dungeon Journal will be available in the description below. She's not giving me any money to plug that, I just think it's a really cool tool. I picked one up myself and I'm going through it for journal spreads. I've got more videos from this conversation in the pipeline, so subscribe, that way you don't miss them. If you want to hear this whole conversation right now, there is an exclusive post on my Patreon. The lowest tier is $2 at patreon.com/ADHDM. Everyone who is supporting me right now or has supported me in the past, thank you so much. All that money goes straight to my video budget. That's editing software, stock footage and music, things like that. Thanks again for watching, and until next time.